まもなく開会させていただきます。どうぞお席についてお待ちくださいませ。安倍総理ご夫妻、塩崎大臣がご到着されました。どうぞ皆様、盛大な拍手でお迎えくださいませ。本日はシンクナウハンセン病グローバル
Thank you all very much for being here for the Global Appeal 2015 Think Now Leprosy and for the elimination of leprosy. Thank you all very much for being here with us. Now from here, we would like to conduct the declaration of the start of the Global Appeal 2015. Now, first of all, I would like to call His Excellency Mr. Abe, who's the Prime Minister of Japan.
Good morning to you all. Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister of Japan. You have come from all parts of the world, and I want to welcome you very warmly. The theme today is the Global Appeal 2015. Chairman Sasakawa has been carrying out organizations. He is the ambassador for Japan, and he's ambassador for United Nations for leprosy. He has been dedicated to eradication of leprosy. I express my respects. Leprosy has a very low contamination. It can be cured. It can be treated and cured, but because of the misunderstanding, there is social stigma very strongly throughout the world. Because of the policies taken in Japan, we have limited the human rights of the persons afflicted with the disease, and we have the past of social discrimination. We must take to heart the history. 20 years ago, we have changed greatly our policy. We apologized and to return their dignity. And we had conducting those. There are more than 1,700 people who are affected persons. They are 83 years and old, the average name. They need caring, they need nursing in order to live their daily lives. The numbers increasing. We shall continue to support that the affected persons could live in peace and then do away with the discrimination. The Global Appeal 2015 has been supported by the nursing associations throughout the world. Nurses is a representative service for women, and I think it is important that the women will fully bring their power, and that will change the world. And those of you nurses and all of you who will be with the patients and affected persons, as you continue to support them, you will be the power in the world to do away with the social stigma throughout the world. And I end my speech by saying that you will be successful throughout the world. Thank you very much.
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much for those words. We would like to now conduct the photo session. People who's going to participate in this photo session, please come to the stage.
.それでは皆様ご準備が整いましたのでフォトセッションを始め
I think all of you are now ready. Therefore, we would like to do the photo session. Please look at the camera in front of you.
どうぞ皆様笑顔でよろしくお願いいたします。よろしいでしょうか。それでは皆様向かって右手のカメラをご覧いただきたいと思います。Would you please look at the camera on your right hand side? 今皆様には右手のカメラをご覧いただいております。よろしいでしょうか。続いては左手のカメラをご覧くださいませ。Would you please look at the cameras on your left hand side? 報道関係の皆様方、よろしいでしょうか。はい、皆様ご協力どうもありがとうございました。ご登壇者の皆様も
Thank you all very much for your kind cooperations.
ここでご公務のため安倍内閣総理大臣
His Excellency Prime Minister Abe would have to leave the room for other engagement. Please give a big applause as he leaves the room.
続きまして厚生
Now I would like to call upon His Excellency Mr. Shiozaki, the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. Good morning to ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. My name is Shiozaki, the Minister of Health, Labor and Welfare. This is the Global Appeal 2015, and on this commemoration, I would like to mention a few words. Now, Global Appeal especially is important for the elimination of leprosy as well as to the affected people, and since 2006, matching to the World Leprosy Day, the meeting has been conducted, and this Global Appeal is the 10th Global Appeal meeting here in Japan for the first time. It's been hosted by Nippon Foundation, and I would like to also congratulate all of you as well as to the chairman, Mr. Sasagawa, for this great event taking place here in Japan. Now, when it comes to leprosy, we have several numbers of new cases exist on an annual basis. However, if we look around the world, there are new patients that goes over 220,000 every year. Therefore, this has been one of the major topics to be noted of from a public sanitation standpoint. Because of the fact that the government have conducted the segregation of the patients, we had to impose on the situations that were quite hard and painful for the patients. Therefore, on behalf of the Japanese government, I would like to apologize for all the patients as well as to the leprosy-affected people using this opportunity. And we would like to now do our best to support these people in order for the education of the public and the enlightenment towards the public in order for these people to understand what leprosy is all about. Now, this promotion of knowing more about leprosy has been conducted by Japanese government. And last year, there is the museum opened in Kusatsu in Japan. And we have received so many people came to this museum to know more about leprosy. This National Leprosy Museum that was opened in Kusatsu, we have received 320,000 participants. And in total, there were 8,000 people already visited to this museum in the last several years. So this museum has been positioned to be the representing museum in order to propagate the understanding of the illness of leprosy. And we would like to do our utmost so that we would be able to further penetrate amongst people to know more about leprosy. And I would like people to understand correctly of what leprosy is all about. And so for the patients as well as for the leprosy-affected people, we would like to further work harder so that there will be no stigma and discrimination towards them. With that, I would like to conclude my remarks. Thank you all very much for your attention.
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Shiozaki would have other engagements to go to, therefore he would be leaving this room. Please, once again, a big round of applause upon his leave. Now we would like to show you the leprosy in our times. So people up on stage, please step down.
तो पक जाने के बाद वही फैमिली डॉक्टर जब आया तो मैं उसको दिखाया तो वो उछल करके भाग गया घर से। बोलता है इसके घर में तो लेप्रोसी है।
बुरे तो बहुत सारी चीज लगी कि क्योंकि हमको देख के इन्हें नाक दबाया करते थे।
तो वो कह रहे हैं कि को नहीं छू तो हमारा हाथ गोड़ हो तो कौन में बोल पाती, हाथ गोड़ नहीं है तब तो बोलते हैं।
Leprosy is not a disease of the past. It's a serious medical and social challenge thrust before those of us living in the present.
It was said that leprosy was incurable. For centuries, there was no known treatment for leprosy. and misunderstanding about the disease spread. The disease left many people visibly disfigured. Throughout the world, leprosy patients were feared and looked upon with prejudice.
Now, thanks to medical advances, leprosy has become a curable disease.
The WHO recommended MDT as the standard regimen for treatment of leprosy.
There are messages about leprosy that I want to convey throughout the world.
この病気は薬はただだしすぐ治るんですよと。
Treatment is free.
Leprosy can be cured with drugs. And the drugs are available free of charge anywhere in the world.
みんな病院に行くみんな。
To prevent deformity, I want everyone to visit hospital without delay. For leprosy, early diagnosis and prompt treatment are the most important.
The WHO has established the goal to eliminate leprosy as a public health problem. There were about 5 million people under treatment in 1985, but the number has declined to around 200,000 today. Brazil remains the only country yet to achieve elimination. The Nippon Foundation is also actively involved in the WHO elimination program.
I got leprosy. My wife left me. It was very sad. The attitude of the people around me changed when they found out that I had leprosy. You know, it was terrible. I wanted to commit suicide. I had no place to go except to come to this colony when I was told to get out of my own village. I was so hurt. I don't remember anything from the past, and I don't even want to remember and talk about it. I want to forget everything.
Leprosy is the most detested disease in human history. People were no longer seen as human for the sole reason that they had leprosy. Many were ostracized from society and kept in isolation. They were forced apart from their families and spent the rest of their days far from home. Even were they to be cured, they could not rejoin to their families, even in death. This is not a story of the bygone days. It is not an account of past history. This still happens today.
It is disheartening to note that the reaction to leprosy is universal and without regard to historical era, nation, race, religion, or culture. People affected by leprosy have been excluded from society. They have not been treated as fellow human beings. And this discrimination remains deeply rooted in society even today.
Even after being cured, people affected by leprosy are not recognized by society. Many are unable to live the lives they wish. Yet times are changing. Movements to unite and organize the people affected by leprosy are accelerating in many places of the world. These movements will lead to a society in which people affected by leprosy can make their own decisions about their lives. To change society and achieve their social and economic independence, the most important thing for people affected by leprosy is to speak out.
Se nós dissermos que somos filhos de Nancenianos, somos da colônia do Prata, eles não...
A leprosy-affected family, and we are from a colony.
Nippon Foundation has issued an annual global appeal to end stigma and discrimination against people affected by leprosy, to draw the world's attention to leprosy and the discrimination it brings.
A leprosy campaign can be likened to a motorcycle. The front wheel is the medical cure, and the rear wheel is the elimination of stigma and discrimination. The motorcycle will not run smoothly unless the two wheels are balanced and moving at the same speed. The ultimate destination of this motorcycle is a leprosy-free, discrimination-free world.
There will probably be a day in the near future when elimination will be achieved. Perhaps the day will also come when this disease, leprosy, will be forgotten. However, we must never let the history of leprosy fade away. The history of leprosy is the history of those who have fought against this disease. At the same time, it is the history of how society, that is to say, each one of us, has faced up to leprosy. Yet again, perhaps elimination can only be achieved when we come to grips with the history of leprosy and face up sincerely to the feelings of discrimination that dwell within our own hearts.
I wish you every success in building understanding for a world free of leprosy and the stigma associated with it.
We should feel more sense of responsibility. His physical no longer with us.
Leprosy is a disease. It is nothing less. It is nothing more. The discrimination and stigma that accompany it have no place. Together, let's fight for a world free of discrimination and stigma.
Like a deep-sea fish, nowhere would I find even a glimmer of light. Kainji Akashi, a leprosy-affected Japanese poet. Excuse us for the technical problem during the video.
ダライラマ法王よりビデオメッセージをいただいておりますので、続けてご覧いただきます。
Throughout history, people with leprosy have been cast out from society in the mistaken belief that the disease was contagious and incurable. Today, we understand that leprosy is easily controlled and cured, but the stigma remains powerful. Persons with leprosy and their families continue to live in fear and misery. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities condemns discrimination against any person on the basis of disability. The General Assembly has also adopted principles and guidelines aimed at specifically at combating intolerance against persons with leprosy. It is time to put these directives into effect. Working together, member states, international organizations, and civil society can end discrimination and ensure the inherent dignity and worth of all those living with leprosy. The regional meetings being organized by the Nippon Foundation are an important step towards this noble goal. I commend your work and wish you every success in building understanding for a world free of leprosy and the stigma associated with it.
I notice that after completely cure, scientifically, no, sure, completely cure, but still some cases, you see, people, the society, sometimes still uneasily sort of also they accept unfortunate people. Now in this case, people who have leprosy, they as a sort of member of their own society. There's no reason. Bring together in the society, share, live together, share, as your own family member. I think real human way, and spiritually speaking also, unnecessary sort of discrimination, these things are really against what we believe. One single person, as a member of the 7 billion human society, human community, so we must reach out, every human being. We believe practice of love and compassion, so we must implement these things. So therefore, these completely cured sort of old patient now must bring into the society as a normal human being. That's, I think, very, very important. That itself, I think, if you to believer, that's the great service to Buddha, to God. And human level, there's, I think, really important practice of secular ethics. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. So now, I would like to call Mr. Sasakawa, the chairman of Nippon Foundation. The floor is yours.
Allow me to say a few words to you that this message shall be transmitted throughout the world, and therefore I have been asked by the Secretariat to speak in English. And therefore I would like those of you to listen to the Japanese interpretation through your earphones. I'm very sorry to cause you inconvenience.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you saw in the video shown earlier, leprosy is one of the world's most misunderstood and stigmatizing diseases. Over the course of human history, countless people have suffered from both the disease itself and the fierce stigma and discrimination that it entails. Progress of the medical front from the mid-20th century made dramatic changes in the battle against leprosy. The advent of an effective treatment method and the dissemination of medication free of charge around the world significantly lowered patient numbers. With early diagnosis and treatment, it is now possible to be cured before the onset of disabilities and or deformities. However, despite these positive developments on the medical front, it is a sad fact that even today, people affected by leprosy must face the stigma and discrimination from society. Entire families can be rejected from their communities, and opportunities for education, employment, and marriage taken away. In countries such as Japan, where leprosy is no longer a medical problem, the disease is for the most part considered a thing of the past. But even after already being cured for many years, I know many individuals whose families are still unable to accept them into the family for fear that they themselves will be discriminated. And although people are no longer confined with the walls of the leprosy sanatoria, the years of social rejection that continues to this day have made most of them hesitant to leave. The Global Appeal is an initiative that I started in 2006 to draw attention to this tenacious and universal problem. The annual appeals are delivered with the same objective: to restore the dignity of people affected by leprosy. In order to reach as many people as possible and to bring positive change to the circumstances of people affected by leprosy, we have in the past joined hands with representatives of people affected by leprosy from around the world, as well as individuals and organizations from a variety of sectors, including world leaders, global businesses, human rights organizations, religious leaders, and legal professionals. And this 10th Global Appeal will be a joint effort with the International Council of Nurses, the principal providers of primary health care. We are launching the Global Appeal for the first time here in Japan, a country where leprosy as a disease is no longer considered to be a medical problem. Came from our desire to encourage the Japanese public, especially the younger generation, to take notice of the issues surrounding leprosy and to take this opportunity to think about its deeper meaning, buried under years of history. We have been holding various events leading to this Global Appeal ceremony in cities such as Tokyo as a way to raise the awareness about the seriousness of the issue of leprosy and of the people who had endured hardship for so long. This age-old history of leprosy must not fade away, but be passed on to the next generation. Each life of story, each memory shared, is a window into a world that for many will be hard to swallow. The stories that people have shared with me during my missions as WHO ambassador of leprosy elimination are heart-wrenching stories of how they were forced to separate from their families, use false identities, engage in hard labor, and even give up their newborn babies for adoption. I am sure that the people who narrated and shared their stories with me all had their moments when they were torn apart and full of vengeance. But over the years, they had amazingly regained their abilities to love life again. What these stories give us are insight into the attributes of human nature. These are attributes that emerge from ignorance, misconception, and misunderstandings. But what I see behind these tragic experiences is a different side of human nature: resilience, forgiveness, and unwavering love for life and humanity. Knowing this had renewed my faith in humanity. And although there is much work to be done in the fight against the stigma and discrimination, I believe if each of us makes the effort, we can change society. Let us stand together to think about the millions before us who suffered in silence, and the millions now who continue to suffer in silence. Let us hold on to the history of people affected by leprosy, learn from it, and once and for all, make the changes that will last for future generations. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
続きまして、国際看護師協会会長、ジュディス・シャミアン。
Now I would like to call Dr. Judith Shamian, the President of International Council of Nurses. The floor is yours.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the International Council of Nurses and the over 16 million nurses around the world, it is great honor for me to take part in the launch of the 2015 Global Appeal to End Stigma and Discrimination Against People Affected by Leprosy. I also want to acknowledge our Japanese member of the International Council of Nurses, the Japanese Nurses Association, that have been a great contributor to issues of health and nursing in Japan and worldwide. As the world's largest group of health professionals, nurses are committed to alleviating physical and mental suffering and promoting the health of all people without prejudice. While leprosy is a curable disease, it continues to face many misconceptions, misunderstandings, and stigma. Leprosy rouses negative reactions from individuals and communities, including fear, silence, denial, stigma, and discrimination against those with leprosy and their families. The same stigmatizing attitude often means that access to treatment is hindered, as societies and governments refuse to discuss the disease openly or deal directly with its dreadful consequences. Discrimination against people with leprosy represent a serious violation of their human rights. As nurses, we understand the importance of equitable access to health services and of educating the public about this disease. The stigma and discrimination felt by individuals can be major barriers to utilizing health services for prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. In addition, stigma and discrimination marginalizes those with the disease and affects their ability to fulfill necessary, culturally expected, and economically productive roles in society. The burden of their care may then fall upon families and communities with little or no resources or social support. For this reason, stigma and discrimination may greatly magnify the social, economic, and personal consequences of leprosy. ICN deplores the stigma and marginalization of people with leprosy and the disastrous social and health consequences of this stigma, and calls for competent, compassionate care. It is our professional and ethical duty to fight stigma and discrimination wherever it happens, to ensure that nurses are competent to provide care and counseling to patients and their families, and to uphold the human rights and fundamental freedom of those affected by leprosy. On behalf of the ICN, let me thank Mr. Sasakawa and the Nippon Foundation for their dedication in eliminating the stigma of leprosy. Today, as part of the launch of the 2015 Global Appeal to end stigma and discrimination against people affected by leprosy, we affirm the right of people affected by leprosy to receive treatment and care, and we call for an end to discrimination they and their families face. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would like to call Mr. Sasakawa and Dr. Kapai, first Vice President of ICN, to come to the podium for a minute. On behalf of ICN, I would like to present to the Nippon Foundation our certificate of recognition, which reads, the International Council of Nurses to the Nippon Foundation in recognition of their outstanding work in the eradication of leprosy and elimination of stigma and discretion. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。国際看護師協会会長シャミアン様より
Thank you very much, Dr. Shamian. So now we would like to ask some words from our guests. I would like to first of all call His Excellency Ramos Horta, the former President of Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste.
Excellencies, Sasakawa, Mrs. Aki Abe, Surin Pitsuan, Dr. Judy Shamian. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to be here in Tokyo as a guest of someone, Yohei Sasakawa, chairman of the Nippon Foundation, a living hero of the most outcast people in the world, the hundreds of thousands of our fellow human beings, our brothers and sisters, children of God, the victims of this centuries-old illness, the Hansen's disease or leprosy. While in Tokyo for this very important symposium and the World Appeal, in response to a long-standing invitation, I, as currently chair of the high-level independent panel on peace operations established by the UN Secretary-General, I and some of my colleagues who serve in the panel have been engaging with senior Japanese government officials, civil society, academia, think tanks, in listening to their informed opinion that certainly will enable us to produce a comprehensive report and wise recommendations to our esteemed Secretary-General. As we all know, our world is facing increasingly complex and dangerous challenges, ranging from decades-old unresolved conflicts like Somalia, Congo, and Afghanistan, to the implosion of Middle Eastern states like Syria and Libya, and the new cases of implosion of fragile states like Central African Republic and South Sudan. In the midst of these tragic events that are daily feature of mainstream media, there are also bright spots in the world where the actions of individuals can make a difference for the better for many fellow human beings. Yohei Sasakawa is not a Hollywood star or a billionaire who flies in and out of disaster areas with journalists and filmmakers, pose for pictures with poor, hungry children, and then leave for the next popular cause. Yohei Sasakawa is not George Clooney, but he looks like George Clooney. Or Angelina Jolie. He doesn't look like Angelina Jolie, that's for sure. He and his family have devoted the last 40 years to raise awareness, mobilize financial, medical support for the hundreds of thousands of victims of this terribly disfiguring disease that for centuries has made millions of our fellow brothers and sisters the most unwanted people in the world. The Sasakawa family has also made generous and sustained contribution towards fostering dialogue, reconciliation, peace, and poverty alleviation. A reading of the 2012 annual report offers an insight into the breadth and the depth of the Sasakawa family immense contribution to world peace in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America, through generous grants in support of research, symposiums, training programs, rural development, building schools and hospitals, health clinics, clean water, sanitation. I did not hesitate 1 minute in accepting the kind invitation extended to me to be here so that with our esteemed UN Secretary General via video message, my good friend, Dr. Pitsuan, former Foreign Minister of Thailand and former ASEAN Secretary General, and Mrs. Abe, the esteemed wife of Prime Minister Abe, we jointly support the Nippon Foundation Global Appeal 2015. There is no more noble cause than embracing our unfortunate fellow human beings, our brothers and sisters, beloved children of God, afflicted by this illness, and for this reason cast aside by society. As a result of the joint efforts of my own government, supported by WHO and the Nippon Foundation, my country, Timor-Leste, with less than one case per 10,000 people, was declared medically free of leprosy in 2010. However, countries like Brazil, India, and Indonesia, particularly in Aceh and Papua, still have tens of thousands of new cases. The good news is that the new cases in these mentioned countries are gradually diminishing, leading us to be hopeful that with greater compassion and effort, leprosy can be eliminated in all afflicted countries around the world. In closing, I wish to greet you all and may God the Almighty and the Merciful bless you all and continue to guide you in this noblest cause. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, we would like to call upon His Excellency Dr. Surin Pitsuan, former Secretary General of the ASEAN.
Your Excellency, the President, the Chair of the Nippon Foundation, the WHO Goodwill Ambassador for Leprosy Elimination, Japanese Goodwill Ambassador for the human rights of people affected by leprosy, Your Excellency Yohei Sasagawa, Your Excellency Manuel Ramos Horta, former President of Timor-Leste, Madame Abe, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest problem of leprosy today is one of social approbation. It is one of social stigma. We have the cure, and it is free. There are delivery mechanisms in every country in the world. Thanks to this, since 1980s, the number of new registered patients has plummeted from 5 million to 200,000 annually. During that time, the number of countries that have not achieved elimination as a public health, leprosy as a public health, has been cut down from 122 to only 1. So there are many who would probably look at this title in front of me, Leprosy Now, and you would ask, why now and what for? To be honest, it is a valid question. And while the onus is on us to answer it, speaking from experience, I believe that there is also a valid answer. Why now? As most of you know, from 2008 to 2012, I served as the Secretary General of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. During that time, Mr. Yohei Sasagawa and I had the pleasure of cooperating closely on regional projects in such areas as human resources development, traditional medicine, and of course, the elimination of discrimination against leprosy and against leprosy eradication itself. Now ASEAN is composed of 10 nations with a huge number of languages and cultures and norms. To put it positively, diversity is our strength. It is also could become our weaknesses. And on the issue of leprosy or discrimination against leprosy, it represents a social ill in many, many levels all across our society. Leprosy provides a very concrete example of just why it is so important to transcend our propensity, our tendency to discriminate against others only because they are different from us. The fact is, discrimination keeps problems from being solved. Sometimes it prevents us from caring enough about the others to even recognize that problems exist among us. At other times, discrimination can inhibit our cooperation. But in the case of leprosy, the stigma is so strong that those with the disease often end up working against themselves. As I said, there is a cure for leprosy. It is free and it is readily available in every country of the world. However, in many cases, the stigma of leprosy causes many to refrain from seeking help because they are afraid of having people find out about their condition. This, in turn, impedes our efforts and our ability to eliminate it. In South and Southeast Asia, home to more people affected by leprosy than any other region in the world, this is a very, very big problem indeed. What have been needed are broad, extensive, and intensive information, education, and communication campaign that would reach all people at every level of our societies. This would dispel the myths of leprosy and reveal its true nature. An easily curable, difficult to contract disease that has no lasting impact if caught early. One of the initiatives that I was privileged to work on with Mr. Sasagawa during my tenure as ASEAN Secretary General was a project to support the restoration of the dignity of the persons affected by leprosy in Southeast Asia. The project was targeted at creating a society in which persons affected by leprosy and their family members can live their lives with full dignity. It was launched in 2009 with two overriding goals: the empowerment of persons affected by leprosy and their families in all aspects of their lives, and social enlightenment to enable their true integration back into our societies. The project, which continued until recently, supported an array of activities conducted in countries such as my own Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia, including workshops related to leprosy conducted by NGOs active in those countries, network building among persons affected by leprosy, strengthening of the capacities of persons affected by that disease and their groups formation and strengthening of networks and partnerships between persons affected by leprosy and all segments of the society, and support of workshops and other activities to enlighten the media as a way of bringing about changes in the social environment surrounding persons affected by leprosy and their families. Our work was precisely in the area that I spoke of, curing the social side of leprosy, which will help us get rid of this disease altogether. And we have the capacity, we have the technology, we have the ability to do it together. But socially ingrained habits or beliefs die hard. Even as we make dramatic advances in the elimination of the disease itself, this social side, this discrimination continues to degrade the lives of those affected by leprosy, and by extension, their families and their communities. Of course, this is a human rights issue, and equally, it is an issue that limits potential of the society it touches. With leprosy, the problem is ongoing. And it is for this reason, I believe, that we are here today for the global appeal to end stigma and discrimination against persons affected by leprosy. This is why today, for the sake of all of us, we need to take time and think leprosy now and visualize a world when this disease is not among the members of our human family any longer. Let us hope that day will come soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. And now we would like to move on to launch Global Appeal 2015. May I ask the distinguished guest to be on the stage? Now we would like to launch the Global Appeal 2015. First, I would like to introduce our guests on the stage. Idea America Coexistence and Economic Independent Network Coordinator, Mr. Jose Ramirez. His Excellency Dr. Srin Pitsuan, former Secretary General ASEAN. His Excellency Dr. Jose Manuel Ramos Horta, former President Timor-Leste. Dr. Judith Shamian, President International Council of Nurses. Mrs. Akie Abe, spouse of the Prime Minister of Japan and chairperson of the Foundation for Encouragement of Social Contribution. The Miss Christine Dane Ibarra Rosa, nurse, Korean Sanitarium and General Hospital, the Philippines. Mr. Diego Flores, Minas General State Coordinator of Mohan. Mr. Yohei Sasaga, Chairman of the Nippon Foundation, Ms. Suga Sakamoto, Japanese Nursing Association President, the Bunkoreti Benugopal, APAL Vice President, and then Mr. Paulus Manik, President of Pelmata, Indonesia. Mr. Vaga Vatri Nausappa, President, Association of People Affected by Leprosy, India. Now, please, gentlemen. And
now,
Leprosy is curable, yet myths and misconceptions about the disease persist. Because of the stigma, people affected by leprosy face social rejection even after they are cured. Whole families are marginalized, sometimes with devastating results. As the world's largest group of health professionals, nurses are committed to alleviating physical and mental suffering and promoting the health of all people without prejudice. We understand the importance of equitable access to health services and of educating the public about disease, especially a misunderstood disease such as leprosy. Our message is clear. Leprosy can be cured. Drugs kill the bacteria. Early diagnosis and treatment prevent disability. There is no reason to isolate anyone with a disease. Nurses affirm the right of people affected by leprosy to receive treatment and care. We call for an end to the discrimination they and their families face. We support the rights of people affected by leprosy to live in dignity as full members of the community, enjoying equal access to all the human rights.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Now, in the Global Appeal 2015 declaration, we also have received the participation by Mr. Kazuo Mori from the National Council of Hansen's Disease Sanatorium resident.
それではまず中央から皆様ご覧いただきたいと思います。
Please look at the camera in front of you.
Look at the camera at center.
Now please look at the camera onto your right.
右手のカメラをお願いいたします。Would you please look at the cameras on your right hand side? そして続きまして皆様向かって左手のカメラもご覧いただきたいと思います。Would you please look at the cameras on your left hand side? 皆様よろしいでしょうか。どうもありがとうございました。ありがとうございます。以上をもちましてグローバルアピールに
Now with that, we would like to conclude the Global Appeal 2015 launch ceremony. So everyone, please give a big applause to the members.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Now from communication from Nippon Foundation, Mr. Fukuda is going to explain to you on the Think Now video message campaign. So the floor is yours.
皆様こんにちは。
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am from Nippon Foundation. My name is Fukuda. Nice to see you all this morning. Now allow me to explain to you on Think Leprosy Now video message. Now this campaign is to propagate what leprosy is all about. And therefore, since December last year, we have started this video messaging initiative. The comments are about a minute or so, and we would receive those video messages talking about leprosy and then would put it up on the websites. Now, from the boat race industry, and we have gotten tremendous support and understanding from various institutions and industries and have received thousands of Think Now leprosy messages. I would like to show you briefly of what this message is all about.
皆さん、ハンセン病してますか？
現在、ハンセン病は治る病となりました。しかし、差別された過去があり、それゆえに今も苦しまれている方々がいます。
私たちの社会はまだまだ知らないことだらけで、知らないがゆえに苦しんでいる人たちがたくさんいます。
この世の中にはさまざまな偏見や差別が
There's a lot of prejudice and discrimination exists here in this world, but I think that this leprosy is the same. I think that the grown-ups like us would have to understand it on what this is all about and then pass this on to the next generation people. The leprosy went through a tragic history, but we see the light in the future. 700,000 people around the world would have to live in an equitable world. I would like all of you to understand correctly of what leprosy is all about. Thinking about leprosy means thinking about us, the human being. Thank you very much for your attention. As you have just seen, these are the video messages. And Hakuho, who is a sumo wrestler who had won the grand prize recently, have also participated, and also Matsuko Deluxe, who is the talent who's well known today, have kindly participated in this initiative as well. The idea is to use the internet and sending this information worldwide. I think that you all may know that this internet world has its power to move and change the world. Therefore, with these messages that we have received, these messages are the true message that these people are facing squarely to the illness of leprosy. And with this video message, there are many people who have known about the disease of leprosy for the first time. I'm hoping that this video message would further influence many people around the world. On the World Leprosy Day, we would be also supporting all these people, and is going to conduct a lot of have conducted a lot of initiatives in order to lead what this leprosy is all about. And in Sankei newspaper, there was also the column that talked about the leprosy as well. And it says that one person could start on this engagement. So I think that for the understanding of leprosy, one person's understanding would mean a lot of understanding amongst a lot of number of people from around the world. Therefore today, right next door from where we would have lunch, we have established this little corner where we would be able to shoot this video message. So if you're very much interested and if you can cooperate with us, then please stop by, and our people from my division would be there all times and would take these video message from you. Thank you very much. Mr. Fukuda, thank you very much for explaining about this video message. Now, to end stigma and discrimination against people affected by leprosy, we would now like to conclude the Global Appeal 2015, Think Leprosy Now. Now, with this, we would like to now take the lunch break. People who have used this translation receiver, I would like you to drop that off at the entrance reception desk area. I think you may have filled in the questionnaire that was in your package. We're also collecting those in the collection box outside of this room. And like was explained earlier, we're shooting these video message right next door from where the lunch is provided. Now, the afternoon session would be in the room called Galaxy. It's a different room, and this room is going to be closed out. Therefore, I would like all of you to take your belongings and move to the venue for this afternoon. So once again, thank you all very much for your attention for long hours for this launch ceremony. With this, I would like you to move to the room for lunch.